your ROI through IT transformation. And for this, I would like to invite on stage �ranganatھ SADASIVA, who is the CTO and Vice President at HP. Giving a brief introduction, Mr. Ranganath is responsible for bringing the thought leadership across the HP hybrid IT business and delivering best-in-class technology experience for customers. He works closely with enterprise segments, understanding their business and technical needs, developing HP's point of view aligned to HPE technology vision. Carrying over more than 27 plus years of experience in the technology industry, he is an accomplished technologist and management executive across core ICT technologies, working predominantly in India and Asia Pacific and Japan region. With this, please welcome Mr. Ranganath with a huge round of applause.
No, I just got a promotion. I'm not a VP. I'm just a CTO there, but that was an added attribute, I think. Good afternoon, and I hope you had a good lunch. And my session is all about return on investment and how projects can be made very profitable. So as you would all know, there is no magic wand to this. You will have to kind of leverage on tried tested mechanisms that have been in place. And I'm going to kind of introduce a few of these to you today. So when we talk of transformation today, this is the basic definition I found was very appropriate when you're talking of doing any kind of transformation in organizations today. Several transformation areas that we can think of. You will have to make your choices in terms of what transformation you really need to do. But two attributes here, one in terms of driving efficiency and making it relevant in a digital world, right? When we talk of transformation today, the key buzzword is digital transformation. And to me, the definition of digital transformation is your ability to morph your product, solutions, and sales, whichever it is, into a digital format, right? That gives you a great amount of leverage in terms of addressing markets which are here and beyond. So that is the transformation that we need to look at. And to me, that is the most important and ultimate culmination of all transformations, right? And IT really helps you to drive the transformation in a very big way. I'm sure most of us are doing these transformations in one way or the other, right? Yes or no? Right? Which do you think is the most important transformation that you have kind of had in the last few days? Do you transform your sales processes? Do you transform your data platforms? What did you do? You would have done several, right? Yes, no, maybe? You have. You're shy to tell me what it is. But this is the most important part, right? It should be an attachment to the business strategy that you have, right? Whatever transformation you do, if it is not in sync with your business, I think there is a lacuna there. And that is where return on investment plays a very important role. Typically, when you're talking of return on investment, two things come into play. You need to develop a price efficiency, right? Or you should essentially have a huge technology transformation which leads to multiple digital products that you can put on place, right? But all of this has to be in conjunction with the way you actually define your transformation. And that transformation today is essentially happening through a business transformation. If you're doing it for the sake of doing a transformation, then I guess there is hardly anything that we can do. There will not be an ROI that you are looking at, right? You cannot get that. The ROI is not purely from the cost that you saved in procuring a hardware or implementing a solution, but the impact you create on the business, right? You all agree with that? So that's going to be the new definition of ROI for us. And to me, there are three trends that really fall in place, right? First is the growth of edge and related activity around the edge, right? Almost 70 to 80% of all data and applications that you're going to use is essentially, you asked the question around end user and stuff like that, right? Because the bank is in your phone, your route to the map is in your phone. Everything that you want, essentially, if you lose your phone, you've lost everything in life almost. It is that kind of a situation today. So the edge is becoming very, very heavy. It is going to get more heavier, I would say, in the sense that 60 to 70% of whatever activities you do is going to be edge-centric, right? It is not only heavy from an apps and data perspective, it also is an area where you are going to deliver an experience to your end customer. So very important, a mega trend. Data we have all spoken about. I think data has many connotations to me. Data is like water, firstly, very important. But most important to me, data is like steam, right? If you don't capture and distill it, it's gone. So the importance of using data at the appropriate time becomes very important, right? And the third is the cloud scenario. I mean, cloud has kind of delivered a different kind of IT capabilities that we are all used to, right? From the times we started delivering IT to the way IT is delivered today, it's a new experience. So getting that experience across the board becomes important, right? So in all of these trends, if you're working at a model, an operating model that is going to deliver an ROI, you'll have to consider these important parameters, right? Is my model able to leverage the 3 technology areas that are there? They're paramount today. I mean, there are many more in conjunction with this, but have you really taken these 3 parameters into care is the big question, right? So when you're doing a digital transformation, focus on that operating model that's able to deliver you a connection between these 3 mega trends and also taking you forward ahead in terms of what it needs to do. So what can this operating model be, right? It's all about what you would do and how you can do that, right? So these are the 2 important attributes in terms of looking at an operating model. And all of these operating models today are featuring 3 important attributes. We speak about people, we speak about processes, and we speak about technology. Amongst all of this, the technology aspect is the easiest one, right? And we have seen several examples in terms of how people and processes have not contributed in an overall success of an organization. So getting into an operating model that enables you to kind of get all of these 3 constituents together is an important activity. So there are several frameworks, and I just wanted to put this up for your consideration, right? It's an 8-domain a model that we have, which essentially talks about doing your transformation and what kind of transformation strategy you need to have, what is the kind of roadmap that you could have, and what are the constituents that you need to look at it, right? So most of what one would need at the core of any transformation is what is mentioned here. We're talking of security, we're talking of people, we're talking of operations, strategy and governance, data, innovation, and stuff like that. Most of what one needs to consider is what's been put up here, right? So this is a framework that we use in many kind of customer scenarios to actually ground them into thinking about how a transformation can really have, right? Each one of this is a module by itself, which means that you're adding few other things to each of this, or you're essentially getting into gory details beyond this. But at a broad level, when you're trying to define a strategy, please look at these kind of attributes and get them into the picture, start measuring them, start understanding them. So this entire models that I'm talking of essentially fall under 4 categories, right? One is developing a digital mindset, which is all about looking at how I can digitize each one of my efforts today, right? And that is a mindset. And essentially in large organizations, if you're trying to develop this mindset, it is a process again, right? It has to be top down, it has to be driven from folks across the board to ensure that this mindset is essentially put through. Then it is about the people again who are able to take this mindset and kind of trudge ahead, right? The kind of skill set that they would need to have, right? Kind of applications and tools and the data that the way they can handle their data. All of that is also very important. The other attribute of any ROI today is the factor of time, right? What I mean by that is anything that you were supposed to implement in an IT project today should be validated with respect to the time itself, right? It can be the right product, right project for the 1-year, 2-year time frame, right? If you take a 5-year window time frame for that, what you might be doing here may not be relevant at all. So many of us essentially get into projects and get hung up with many things, asking for time frames which are beyond 2 to 3 years or 5 years, which in the context of today's business doesn't make sense at all. If you're trying to build something that is relevant for 5 years, 6 years, you might lose out on many opportunities that are there now. So contextualize each one of your efforts with respect to time. And any transformation is a continuous process. What I mean by that is you just don't transform once and then you're, if you've lost weight from whatever it is to whatever it is now, you just have to continue the process, right? So you again have to transform, going ahead. So that's the need today, and contextualize that in the context of what time frames and when are you doing that, right? And the last one is around leadership, in terms of how important it is for leaders to drive this entire initiative, right? I don't know if you've heard of this company called Lego? Brick blocks, right? Yeah. That company about 15 years ago was really going down the drain, right? What is Lego? I mean, it is just a block and multiple blocks being put together and certain kids playing around with that, right? But they were very, very successful in whatever they did. They had to go through a transformation, and they went through a transformation, and today Lego is one of the brightest examples of digital transformation. They not only transformed their business from whatever was customary, they took it to the web, right? They started creating a lot of programs. They started merchandising this. They started working with organizations to co-brand and sell that. So, it is a very important story to understand how transformation was continuous, and transformation, however rudimentary the business, you can actually go ahead and do transformation there. So that's they were essentially following some of those the tenets that were mentioned here that enabled them to really go across and transform. So an important call out from my perspective, when I see a lot of projects in the country and how we work, is dependent on the people behind it, right? They would have bought the best of technology, they would have had the greatest of intent, but they did not involve the people. How do you message this across to people becomes a very important attribute. Likewise, when people talk of AI/ML and its capabilities, many of them believe that they will lose their jobs because of AI/ML capabilities, right? But actually, if you were to look at it, India stands at the corridor of having so much more of employment that's feasible because of a technology like that. It's a disruptive technology, and it's going to have a lot more people coming to do that. So success is essentially dependent on that, and a lot of stats here, right? Resistance of employees, and management behavior. Some of them really take it against them personally, and don't support a project like that. So success depends on your people. So that's an important learning as well. So I talked of these 3 parameters that are really converging today, and what is increasingly happening is consuming each one of this as a service, right? You would have seen that as a service is something that's really evolving in the marketplace today. I sometimes wonder, why are people so, why are they surprised with as a service as a concept? Because personally and people, we have always had as a service, right? We buy our milk like that, we buy our newspaper like that, the provisions used to buy, come in as a service, right? You also bought a little bit of as a service through the cloud models as well, right? The cloud experience was nothing but delivering it as a service. So cloud is what, at least 15 years old now? So they needed an evolution over cloud. They wanted to enhance the capabilities of the cloud and take away the issues that people really looked at. Cloud is an experience and definitely a fundamental in any business and IT strategy today. But is there anything beyond that you would want to have when people talk of hybrid architectures and stuff like that, right? That is where as a service comes into play. Your ability to maintain the cloud experience, mitigate issues that were related to latency perhaps, compliance perhaps, cost perhaps, of several other things that actually were impediments or bottlenecks in the cloud model, right? So that is something that's coming into play today, and perhaps is a way of looking at bettering your ROI in your organization, right? So this is one of the tools that we have been speaking to in the marketplace, and my experience as well, right? What does this deliver? This delivers that cloud experience, right? Which means that you are essentially using all of your resources like it was in the cloud, but you're using it in a way and fashion that it is available within your premises or in a colo. And this actually leads to a lot of benefits. What are the benefits? With respect to time, when you're looking at how you're able to deploy your IT projects, since you're on a cloud-like model, your efficiency in managing time really goes up, and here is a number around it. And the risk of unplanned downtime, right? You are managing most of your resources in that cloud architecture, in the cloud mode, and you're responsible for whatever is available today. So extraneous elements that are contributing to a failure in an organization are not really happening here. So it is in that context, I would say unplanned downtime really goes down. The next is about cost, right? When you're looking at cost efficiencies being built today, you have multiple landscapes in an IT corridor today, right? You have an edge, you have a cloud, you have a public cloud, you have an co-host, co-location and stuff like that. If you were to manage your IT assets across these elements, you need to have a handle around cost, right? So that is where as a service really scores over multiple deployments today, right? It gives you the ability of using cloud as an innovating tool, as a benchmark where you would start developing few of your newer projects, but slowly and steadily when you mature over your IT life cycle, you have the ability to move your workloads onto something that is on-prem, something that's in a colo or in a hybrid model, right? So your ability to manage your IT geography across multiple locations really helps, and that is a big driver when it comes to cost and cost efficiencies. And the last one is simplifying IT. What happens in an as a service world is you essentially look at your entire IT geography and decide what needs to be kept where, right? It is like an sorting out of your IT infrastructure and placing your workloads wherever it is appropriate, right? So when you do that, you're essentially doing a right deployment of workloads and the requirements of the workloads, and how those can be met with cost and time and other parameters that I'm mentioning here, in line with all of that, right? That is the simplification that really comes into play, and that is what is proven in an as a service model today. The other unique value in this is, these kind of models today are able to cater to all the personas in the organization, right? We're just not talking of, there was this example of shadow IT and, people doing it on the cloud and stuff like that. Here, irrespective of the IT persona and the requirements, you're able to cater to them in a way and fashion where you have control, you have, financial prudence, you have the ability of meeting compliance and stuff like that. And that is the model that uniqueness and a value proposition that comes through from as a service today. No wonder when you look at any of the Gartner reports or the IDC reports or anybody like that, they are very clearly saying that we are moving into an as a service world. And as a service is something that improves on your efficiency and delivers a better ROI for you, right? So that is, from an HP perspective, we have a platform which delivers that, and that's called GreenLake. But likewise, the idea here is to look at as a service, ROI, and putting that together in the context of your own organization, right? Thank you very much. These are my coordinates, and looking forward if there are any quick questions here, or you can always stay in touch.
Great.